Hello, everybody. We are so excited to be here with you today. This is the Purpose Powered Podcast. My name is Ryan, and this is Rochelle, and we have a wonderful guest with us today, Mr. Taylor Wright. So thank you so much for being here, Taylor.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
We're excited to have you here, Taylor. And
Thank you, Rochelle.
Our Purpose Powered Podcast, we have the opportunity to interview incredible individuals with all different walks of life, all different types of experiences. And for me, interviewing you is a pleasure because our interaction that we had, which was a very human experience, but it gave me the opportunity to see you. And I felt like you got to see me in just a few moments of time.
Yes, ma'am.
But we connected. And I think that's so important with just humanity and seeing each other, right? In a world that's so busy, oftentimes we don't see each other.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm wondering if you'll start out with just sharing a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about Taylor Wright.
Obviously, my name's Taylor. From the Southeast. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and I'm from so far south you actually run out of land. I grew up on the water down there, and so humble beginnings. My kind of a typical sort of Southern conservative, I guess, upbringing. And love football since I was a young boy. Obviously was involved with football growing up, and sort of launched a career, I guess you'd say, in football. I first was a high school football coach and teacher, and then got into the college football world of coaching, and that as we were talking earlier, it's such a it's a very intense business. I think folks have no understanding of how that works. But I really worked to take a path to mastery with that. And then about 10 years ago, I was working at the University of Wyoming, working in football. And in football, you have to work. Like it's some jobs, like there's sick days, and there's in football, at least the more competitive levels, there's no sick days.
I can totally relate to
that. Yes.
But I'm not in football.
That's not written anywhere, but it's kind of just, it's understood. So
it's a code.
It's a code. And so I was having to write something on a board. I was assisting the offensive line coach, and I was writing something on a board, and I couldn't even get my arms up. I'd been having a pain in my neck, which I thought was like a football injury or some sort of injury I had, or and so I just remember trying to write, and I couldn't lift my hands above my head, and but I thought I had a pinched nerve. I ended up continuing to work and doing these things, kept procrastinating going to the doctor because I thought, it's just something it'll because everything else kind of you just work through, and long story short, I ended up having a vertebrae that was missing, and I didn't know until I got an MRI, and the doctor came out and he said, "Well, I think I found your problem." And I looked at him and I said, "Good." And I thought he was going to give me some medicine and he said, "You don't have a C4 vertebrae." And so I kind of knew. He said, "You either were born without one, or maybe you have a cancer that ate it away." And I was pretty confident I had a C4 at one point in my life. And so I kind of just looked, and then I just remember being transported to Denver immediately. And then I woke up a week later, and I was in the hospital, and then that was kind of the leukemia, which if you know, like how my life, a typical probably younger man in his 20s, I didn't go to the doctor. I did try to eat healthy, but very career driven, very motivated to be the offensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys or something, And so that was sort of my existence. I didn't even know nurses and these folks in the capacities that they serve was even a thing. I just had no idea. And so for me, I just began on that journey, and had to really learn how to walk again, hold a fork again, everything. And
Why did you have to learn how to do those things again? What was it about the surgery that caused that type of recovery process?
So my spinal cord was being suppressed by my vertebrae. My vertebrae basically started pressing on it, and that's why I couldn't hold my hands above my head. It got to where I could barely walk. And then when I got down to the hospital in Denver, they did a couple of surgeries on me, but they didn't immediately know. They could see the neck injury, so to speak, but it took them, because they had to take my blood and then send it off actually to the University of Utah, the Huntsman, to test the blood. And when they did that, they found out I had cancer, but they had already started operating. And when you have leukemia, your blood doesn't clot well, which means like you bleed all the time. And so there were complications in the surgery that like made inflammation and swelling, and it deteriorated my neck even more. And so a week later, when I woke up, they had removed my spinal cord, my vertebrae off my spinal cord, but it just takes a while for that to sort of everything to come back, you know? And so it was like I was walking, it was like everything was slow motion. Like I couldn't move. I couldn't even lift my hand. I couldn't grab anything. It was such a unique experience, you know. I was always so coordinated. You know, I probably wasn't, but I thought I was coordinated. And you know, I remember like this was not the first few days. The first few days was literally just like, you know, speaking and trying to just move a little bit, and as far as not like walk, but just like move your arm or something. But I remember I finally got to where I could like rehab, and I remember throwing a ball with my mom, and my mom's like she did not do sports. That was not her thing. And she was way better than I was. And I remember thinking to myself, this is an interesting moment in my life right now, that my mom's way more coordinated than I was. And so it just took a while for everything to come back. And I still have some numbness in my fingers. I think will always be there, just the way it is, because I have a fusion back there, because they had to fuse the C3 and C5. But it took like 3 surgeries. The neck bone was really weak. My cancer, one thing about the cancer is it weakens the bones in your body. So when they went to fuse things and fix things, there was a crack in the fusion. So when they fused C3 and C5, one of those vertebrae, I'm not sure which one, cracked. And so we thought we may have to have another surgery. It was a tough moment. I've got scars all over my neck and things. And so I got on a chemotherapy, and it worked for a while, and then kind of quit working. And then I came here, and I've been on a trial drug here for a while. I just got FDA approved. So having some success again with it. My cancer, there's no cure for it. It was a death sentence up to about 25 years ago. If you had it, I think the longest someone lived was like 7 years. But now it's being able to be treated with a TKI, which is a targeted kinase inhibitor, which is a pill you take, still a chemotherapy, which, you know, but it targets the mutation. In theory, it's supposed to, although it does kill your healthy cells too, to an extent. But so it's been a technological breakthrough in how that cancer is treated, and so I'm here for that. And I came here for that, but I've since, you know, created a life for myself, and I love learning. I love people. I love just the expansion of life and why we are, and the unraveling of it.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And I mean, technology, it's amazing how far it's come. And
it is, yeah.
Hopefully there'll be even more developments,
yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to ask you that moment, you know, after your surgery and you had to relearn, you know, how to walk and how to talk and all of those things. Where was your mind at that time? What was your state of, like, your thoughts about the present time, your future, and what went through your mind at that time?
When I first woke up, I talked to the doctor, and because of how aggressive the cancer was eating the vertebrae away, they thought I had 2 different types of cancer. So the CML and the AML, and the AML is an accelerated, I'm sure we've all known someone who's had obviously cancer, but even AML and acute myeloid leukemia, that's the more, that's a tough one. And because the CML doesn't present this way, so it doesn't really eat the vertebrae. So they came in and told me I had 2 cancers. Well, I had been basically sedated for a week. So I woke up after a week. The first thing they asked me was do you know where you're at? And I looked, and I could see University of Colorado Hospital, and I thought Boulder, Colorado, because I was in football, so I know like all the city names, you know. And so, but they said no, you're in Aurora, and then the doctor came in. He said, "We think you have 2 cancers, but we don't know. We got to do some tests." And so even in that state, I knew that was probably not the greatest thing to be told, you know. And so I did a test in which they put a dye in your body, and then they can see the cancer because they put glucose in your body, and so I just remember doing that, and I felt pretty foolish for all the times I was sort of petty in life. I really thought I was going to die because I just knew. I was like, this is not good, and I just felt kind of dumb for the times I was petty, the times I didn't have integrity, and you know, I just realized that I'd pretty much wasted my life, and not wasted it like I sat on the couch and smoked marijuana or anything like that. I was very driven, but I didn't really, you know, I don't think I really enjoyed anything about my life. I was very focused. You know, I was a nice person. I've always been polite, but I was just very career oriented. I just wanted to be like Coach of the Cowboys. That's all I wanted to do, or something like that, you know. And so I just realized that, like, man, I you know, could have lived with more integrity and could have been a better human. And so I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I just felt dumb, honestly, that I didn't do better in life, you know, because it was just foolish.
Yeah, maybe time got away from you, or you look back at those years, and obviously you had a successful career. You're on track to achieve what maybe the world would think is success.
Right.
How has this experience and what you're currently experiencing, how would you define success now?
Well, I still think success is and I'm not a perfect individual. I make a lot of errors, but it's kind of the evolution of our core essence. You know, maybe the whole point of being here is to put ourselves and to undergo things that expand us, you know. And so it's not a scoreboard thing. It's not a, you know, and I'm very motivated. I've been investing since I was 21 years old. I think, you know, we should meditate. You know, for me, like, I meditate, read Eastern philosophy, and then I remember my Social Security number too. There's a book, I think, by Jack Kornfield where he talks about that. So there's a pragmatic part of life. Also, though, it's sort of that expansion of our essence. You know, maybe life's meant to expand us and sort of just, you know, when you lay your head on the pillow, if you did the best you could, maybe that's the beautiful part of life, you know. And that's the way I kind of see life now, is that, you know, it's just an evolution of myself, my essence, my source, my being. You know, that's kind of why we're here, to expand and to, you know, that is kind of above comfort or anything. So that's the way I sort of look at things. And I also just try to realize that, as crazy as it sounds, you're me in a different life form, and you're me in a different life form. And, you know, we can have unconditional love for our fellow man. And when we do that, even when we have to have uncomfortable conversations, or we have to, you know, advocate for ourselves, or we still can win because we can have unconditional love, you know. And it sounds really, you know, different, you know, for people who maybe don't, you know, operate like that. But it's helped me through different stress and challenges. And, you know, so that's what I think about life now. I don't know when my life will end. And I don't say that because of the cancer and stuff. I think I'll live a long time. You know, that's the goal. But, you know, the fact is that, you know, sort of the evolution of my essence, of my being, is sort of what I put above other things. And I love being around awesome people. I love learning. I love talking to people. I love connecting. So it's both, you know, because I love the expansion and the unraveling of why we are the way we are, but I also love meeting people. I love seeing. I love the unknown of learning. So.
Yeah, and I would say that we met in very unique circumstances. It was Christmas time, and you came up to talk to me, and I was actually at first I was like, okay, what is this? What is this guy asking me?
You know,
what you know? He just struck up a conversation, which was kind and it was friendly, but. You know, I think as a woman, sometimes you're like, okay, what's the angle being played here? Mm-hmm. And after about like 1 minute, I knew there was no angle. I was just very taken by how genuine you are. And also, just how polite and kind you were, and that you genuinely, were just present in the moment, and you're curious of who I was, and I was curious about who you are, and what I was impressed as well is Christmas time. Everyone's really busy. They're running around, they're shopping, they have a zillion things to do. And you were just as calm as a cucumber. Like you wouldn't even think it was the holidays. You wouldn't even think anything was going on. And you were just present in the moment. And for me, you just really struck me as a very powerful, resolute, calm, and just present individual. And you don't find that in everyday life. And so I was grateful for the opportunity to meet you. And I didn't even know anything about your cancer at that time.
Right. And likewise. And I didn't, sometimes I forget faces. I know who you are, but I didn't know who you are when you came in.
Yeah.
And I think growing up in Mobile, Alabama, it's such a different culture than anywhere I've lived. And I've lived in 10 states. And you're sort of taught to treat people with respect and kindness. And relationships there are such a big deal. There's so much poverty. I think like Utah, it's and there's memes about this and people talk, but the more rougher areas here in Utah compared to like Mobile, Alabama is like, it's like, I can't even tell you it's just, and I don't mean like, as far as what the houses look like, I mean, just like the crime and it's just a different world. Yeah. And so, growing up always, some folks say, don't speak to strangers. In the South, it's not like that. It's like you speak to everybody, including strangers. It's just a different energy. I also think that I love learning. I love connecting. I love, I talk to everybody I can, and it's not a zero-sum game, that we have an infinite amount of energy that we can share with our fellow man. And some people understand and, you can connect with, man, woman, old, young. And some maybe are on their own journey or like you said, focused on something. And so to me, it's just a love I have of learning why we are the way we are. And, I didn't know anything about you and all this. But if someone's kind and polite and respectful and, I'm going to also treat them how they treat me. And the reason I'm here and the reason I want to help you as much as I can and just respect you is because you are who you say you are. Like I met you at the mall when, there's a lot going on, like you said, even if I'm polite and respectful. And I think just because when you love talking to people, you get better at it. But even if I came across well and things, but you're still, like you said, still a woman, there's a lot going on. And how you interacted with me, I could tell you weren't just nice to me that because usually how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I can tell you're genuinely try to enrich those around you. And so I didn't know this and that and but I was impressed with that, I was impressed with that because anybody can, in a football setting, you can, if you're trying to recruit a player, you can always be nice and kind. Or when you guys are down in Peru and you're getting licensees and things to operate. But that's completely separate from okay, you'll never see this person again. You're not from Salt Lake. You're down there at, in Murray or wherever. And so that's a beautiful thing when another living being has this sort of a kindness and an energy that will positively affect their fellow man, because the love and energy we create truly lives on long after we do, and some people are into this, some people are not. I don't know everything about energy waves and vibrations, but I think that highest vibration is that authenticity and love, and you can feel when someone's operating from that. And it doesn't mean that every moment of your life is, because we're human beings and human animals or however we see that. But I do think that you can genuinely see when someone has a kind essence and a vibration that they share with their fellow man, that's on a good frequency. And, I've learned that just by talking to people and, expressing, always with kindness and respect, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, that you just meet so many great people. I always say that so many things in life are just a conversation away. I remember, I got to do some work with the Washington Redskins. I think they're a different name now, but back in 2019, I went up to the general manager and just formed a relationship with him at the Senior Bowl in my hometown. And he ended up inviting me to do some work for him. I did a mini camp. And that was a pivotal moment too, just in my career. But I thought to myself, it's the same in any aspect of life that, a conversation in a good way, in a respectful, win-win way can, you can learn so much and you can meet some of the best people, and like you said, there is a lot with social media. I saw a statistic one time, I think it was ages under the age of 25 have had, I think it's 60% less social interactions than people the generation before. So if you're in your 50s right now, you've had about, relative to that age and point, you've had about 60% more. And that's exponential. That compounds a lot more than you think, continuously. And so I'm trying to bring it back, just talking to people. And
there's a lot of power in conversation, right? And I could tell when you first walked in and we talked to each other, you had a good energy about you. I want to go back a little bit in a minute, but first I want to kind of focus on the conversation part. It's amazing to me how many people don't like to talk, right? Or they're uncomfortable in talking with people. But if you look back on your life and you analyze things, kind of the self-reflection you did in the hospital, right? You can realize how many amazing things have happened just off the start of a conversation, right? Because conversations leads to a lot of other great things, but the best thing it does is it builds connections with people, right? Some people call it networking, some people call it just whatever they want to call it, but really at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people and finding out who they are and learning their life lessons. And what I want to do is ask you a question. When you were in the hospital and you were self-reflecting, I can really relate with you. You're a guy that had a lot of great goals. You're in your 20s, and you want to achieve a lot of great things. And all of a sudden life hits you really hard. And all of a sudden you're sitting in a hospital and you're having to relearn to use a lot of your motor functions. Right. During that self-reflection, what were your emotions at that time?
Well, I had just started learning I guess you'd say some Eastern philosophy, and I was really big on a teacher, Owen Cook, and he talks about trusting the process. So, and of course in coaching, that's you hear that term all the time, and even when folks use it, sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean it's always being implemented,
They just say it. They may not even know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Everybody
trust the process.
Trust the process, But I really, I had read like Eckhart Tolle and New Earth and other things, and I really love just you have to trust the process. That the person you become is the cool part, and also I knew enough through coaching to know that you really do just have to trust the process and not look at the external all the time. You just have to have that internal confidence to know that and then I really just I think what helps me in life is whenever I'm hit, and I get hit all the time with news and things, is it's just kind of fun. It's like we're in a video game. We're on level 3. We're trying to get to level 4. But while we're on level 3, we're going to have the greatest time ever. And then eventually that video game is going to be unplugged from the wall, And so you just kind of have to know that, it's just an expression of human creativity. This table, why we're here today, it's an expression of human creativity, and there's no really good, bad. It's just an expression of human creativity. The cancer got in my body. It ate things away, and I found myself in that situation, and it was like, hey, this is level 3, and we're trying to get to level 4, and trying to, whatever iteration of life I'm experiencing, I try to detach from the emotions of it, because it's like getting mad when it rains outside. You're not going to get mad when it rains. And if you have something in your body, or if you're dealing with something I know you guys have children, you just have to sort of see it as, okay, this is the thing I'm experiencing. And maybe this contrast gives life a little polarity, but it gives it a little meaning too, and it's not as subjective, good, bad. There really is no, everything is an iteration that we're experiencing, and then the meaning that we give it is how we interpret it. So it can have a wide variety of, I guess, impacts and emotions within us.
So, Will, you're on level 3.
Yes,
do you kind of lay out like milestones to hit level 4? And is that still a part of what you're kind of focusing on or striving for? And some could be maybe with your health, but
Sure.
Maybe there's other things that are on a personal level or mentally a mindset that you're trying to check yourself, because I think even if you try to detach from certain types of news, you still you get it and you go, 100%. You might say, okay, I have 5 minutes to think about this and
no, you're exactly
be
right.
mad about it or sad about it. And now I'm going to move into, where I choose to be mentally, where I choose to go, and be in a place of presence and be in a place of maybe gratitude. And what would be your roadmap for that?
Well, I write down, every morning and every night, sort of what my goals are and sort of how to, circumnavigate that, So I write down what my goals would be in 10 years and then how do I do that and then try to break them up into small things to try to achieve that. So there is a pragmatic part of life, but I also think, I've been told even relatively recently, it's like the cancer therapy I was taking wasn't working. It might have to be a bone marrow transplant, which at my age you don't want. And so it is beautiful to do that and it takes the pressure off if you see it like a video game instead of being like, if I don't do these things, I'm a failure. I'm very motivated to be financially independent, have enough assets that generate income. And I've been working on that for a long time, a lot. I don't think most people care to do that. But I was like when I was 21 years old, I was the nerd buying, cattle companies in Australia to try to diversify my portfolio so I could play the currency and the agriculture because, to stop inflation and things. So that's one aspect of it. But I don't, and that's cool. But in the end, none of that stuff really even matters. It really is just sort of enjoying the moment. As crazy as that sounds, you're not behaving in a way that's reckless or for your future, but it's just this is the most beautiful moment of my life. This moment right here with you guys really is for all of us the most beautiful moment we're going to have. Like this is the beauty in life, especially when you're around great people. I can tell. I don't know you that well, but I can tell how you were talking. You weren't saying anything negative. It was all hey, positive. We can do this. We can do this. This was cool. This was cool. I'm sure you're tired. I'm sure you're exhausted. I'm sure you're a lot. But that's when that's what I think about. Just loving the moment as much as we can right here, right now. This is as great as life will ever get. And the best is yet to come. This is the greatest moment we've ever had, and the best is yet to come. And within that, I think you should have goals and things that you look forward to because it gives you something to shoot at. Yeah. And you should max out those days. But if at the end of the day, though, I think a little bit I know because I thought I was dying, and I may still die within the next handful of years, is the things that you really care about are probably going to be being kind to people, having a good energy, not, at least for me, the thing I felt worst about was the times I was kind of petty and dismissive of people and not angry. I didn't even feel, I just felt like, man, I really should have done better. And so if I can positively affect my fellow man, and I have boundaries, but I think if you can positively affect your fellow man, it's a win. And psychologically too, all the studies show that when you're adding value to people, when you're building things up, then you have a sense of satisfaction too. So that's sort of the things that go through my mind on a day-to-day basis. And I'm no expert. And like I said, I do think we should have the pragmatic thing as well. So
yeah. Well, I love how you said that. And a lot of what you're describing is the importance, and Rochelle and I have had a lot of conversations about this recently. Well, a couple of points that I'll make, and that is, first, you're describing just living in gratitude, right? Being grateful for where you are, what you have right now, but then still want to achieve something bigger.
Right.
I've had that conversation with my son that's playing football right now, right? He's, you know, the doldrums of fall camp and everything like that. Yes. And you're like, I want to get through with fall camp. I want to get it done. Yeah. And I'm talking to him. I'm saying, this is your last one in college, right? Enjoy the moment. Be grateful for what it is. And you got 2 weeks left, but what can you accomplish in those 2 weeks? Instead of focusing on, I just got to get through 2 weeks.
Right.
What are you grateful for right now?
Yep.
And then you know this from a football perspective too, and Rochelle knows I love to talk about analogies when it comes to football, but it's also where your confidence comes from, right? You've coached a lot of kids, right? And where does their confidence comes from? Oh, did I make this good play or did I do that? And then all of a sudden their confidence goes. But then what happens when you don't make a good play, which happens to even all pro, everything of people. Tom Brady, we make mistakes, right? And the importance of confidence is really shifting that focus to my confidence comes or derives from the intentions that I have, right? When you focus your confidence on the intentions you have, it doesn't matter if you make a bad play or in life you make a mistake, you have a bad meeting, you say something you shouldn't have said, whatever it is, that can really derail your confidence. But if you focus on the intentions that you have and everything you've been talking to us about today, I love what your intentions are. It's to connect with people, right? Because you never know where those conversations are going to go. You never know who you meet. Rochelle and I have these big goals that we've been trying to chase. And where has all of our success or start of success come from? It's from conversations with people, right? Not even knowing that anything was going to come out of that conversation. For me, one of them was just, I was on an airplane and I started talking to this guy. And as I started talking to him, we had a great conversation. I, for the life of me, really can't remember the whole conversation, but I knew that I was intently listening to him, which is important, right? So many times we get into a conversation and we're thinking about what's the next thing we're going to say? Like, how am I going to respond to what they're saying? Or we're thinking we know how they're going to answer a question that we have instead of just truly listening to them. But when you listen, that's where powerful conversations come into play. Well, that individual called me a couple of weeks later and said, the advice you gave me was like, helped me so much. I want to have you come out here and talk to me. And we started talking more, and that has opened doors into a lot of other places too. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't, just have a conversation with them. And a lot of times you can be on an airplane and you just want to go to sleep or you just want to just be by yourself. But there's power in conversation, and there's power when you have intentions to do good things.
And I'll tell you, and the thing is, you if I'm walking by anyone, it doesn't matter. They can be, not have a place to stay, on the streets of Salt Lake. And you can say, well, anybody can say it, but how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can genuinely be curious about people and also really try to enrich those you interact with, it is just who you are. It becomes who you. It's like a habit. You can't and growing up in the South, I had such an advantage too. Because if you're 4 feet away from someone, you're going to say, "Hey, how are you? How you doing? How's everything going?" Give a head. You acknowledge their presence. And I've lived all over. And I've lived outside of Boston, and when you say that to somebody in Boston, they think you want money or something, and so it's but you can if you genuinely just love to share that energy, and the people who are really, I think, I don't know, who are on their own path, but have had some pragmatic success too. They can feel when someone's sharing energy freely, and they can feel when someone's trying to take, and. You talked about being a woman. I was in football, and I used to work outside of coaching, but I had my own little business, and then I worked for a company, Pro Football Focus. And when you do that, you're around everybody. And I was trying to run a business, and so I kind of enjoyed my business in that company. I wasn't interested in coaching. I also was recovering from my cancer. So, but I would know all the coaches, and I had all the, I just would do so much work with the coaches. And so I had this big network of people, and coaches would sometimes message me to want to connect with somebody. And it would be like being an attractive person, where you have so many people coming at you. And I used to make the joke, I was like, could this person at least buy me dinner first? If the first thing that they say is to try to get me to do something, I kind of just feel a little weird, because my concern is like, if I introduce you to this person, are you going to do the same thing to them, And so I'm a big believer in just like sharing energy, having unconditional love for your fellow man. That doesn't mean that you should open up your house to people who have a drug problem and they've not showed any intention to improve. I'm not saying that. And, you can have boundaries, you can do those things. Also, though, genuinely in every interaction, if you can positively affect folks, number one, it makes you feel good. And number two, it's who you are, you can't turn it off, And again, there's obviously, you can't be everything for everybody, but you can, within every interaction, try to positively affect those you interact with.
Well, I can honestly say that day, you positively impacted me, and
thank you.
I needed connection that day. I didn't even know how much I needed connection that day until I met you that day, and I walked away just feeling so grateful, and also just feeling like the world's a better place because I met you. It gave me hope in humanity, in people. It's such a busy time of year, and in a I guess a holiday type atmosphere, it really did feel like that's the Christmas spirit. The Christmas spirit is of giving and caring and sharing joy and happiness with each other. And so, at that time, I was just like, I could care less what I do the rest of the day. That because we spent a good amount of time talking,
Sure,
and it was the best part of my day. And so you definitely shared energy that day with me, and I appreciate that.
That's the goal, to enrich our fellow man. And, I know you have so much in your life that you have going on. And it never, the love and energy we create truly lives on long after we do. And it doesn't matter if, the world's, if everything's disintegrating around us, we can choose to really enjoy and just be kind and have that love for life. When you say hey to somebody, if it's an Uber driver and you talk to them, it makes you feel better. Like it really is a beautiful thing. Like if you want to change your state, I know you guys are into Tony Robbins, and I'm guessing, I have no idea, but my guess is you guys, are love to learn about the psychology and how we can optimize things. But really, if you just talk to people, you will not be in a bad mood if you just go talk to everybody. I mean, it is impossible because we are tribal people, and the endorphins and serotonin in our brain, it is a download from God, the universe, however you want to. It is a download like you'll never have, just randomly being kind to people, including the people who, folks would be like, oh, that, and it does help that when you're a man, it's a little different. I have a lot of female friends, and I know you have to be a little more careful, and I respect that, and I have empathy for that. So I know that I've also met folks like yourself who are women and who still share that unconditionally and without hesitation, and it is amazing. Obviously the opportunities, but also just like it is amazing the expansion and where you can really feel it and be like, okay, this is a person who cares and enrich those they interact with, and the other thing is this: we're humans, and because we can think. And we know that we're thinking, it separates us from like other animals, And so you can share freely without expectations. You can share freely without needing anything. Not everything is you can really just share. And, you may not have, even if you never see the person again, but it's still a beautiful moment in our lives. And I think people are tapping into this. I really do. I think, we're basically... We have an addition to our bodies now on our phone, but we don't know all the psychological things. We know that like the Generation Z is like the most anxiety-ridden, depressed generation ever. Like it's not even close. A large percentage on antidepressants and anxiety medicine, and so much of that is comparison and also lack of human connection. We're meant to be with people. We're meant to be with people. When you start talking about football and I get excited because there's a shared experience there, that taps us into our essence, that taps us into our being. But the best way to tap into our being is to be around others, is to enrich those we interact with and do those things. There's a lot of great things about, folks who can sit at 9 hours and work away, but that's a sacrifice, it's a blessing and opportunity to be able to work with people in real life and just share energy. So.
I absolutely agree. And I think we have to foster that too with the younger generation. I know with my own children, something as simple as, with my boys, I would share with them, you don't text a girl and ask her out. Like, you actually call her on the phone, talk to her, and, ask her out that way. Or even my daughter, something as simple as she had, something she wanted to buy from a store and she wasn't sure if they'd have it at a particular store. And I said, pick up the phone and call them. I'm not going to call them. And I said, pick up the phone, right. Have a conversation. But just, that anxiety of even just, I'm like, this is like a consumer transaction. This isn't even like really being authentic with anyone. Right. And if that's hard for you to just pick up the phone and have a conversation, then as your mother, like, I need to work with you on a couple of things, because that's a really important part of life, is having conversations and interacting with people. And it does take courage at first. I mean, I was young once, and it was scary, going up and talking to someone, or you might feel you could be rejected. But I think we have to also pay attention with the younger generation and even with people that we work with or people that we interact with, and give them opportunities to experience a different level of connection. And so I love that you're sharing that.
And I mean, you think about, like, in health and food, I think everyone now knows that, like, processed food, like if it's in a box, probably not ideal. Yeah. So there's a huge movement now to eat like ground beef, to eat like fish, to eat like actual fruits and vegetables, to have like even like milk and butter now is like healthy. And so just because something is technologically advanced doesn't mean that it serves us all the time. There's a role for internet. There's a role for being able to, you can delve into, you can ask Grok or ChatGPT a lot of questions, and they can help you in depth. But it doesn't mean that, like, we should do that for 12 hours a day. There's something to, just like we need sunlight, and then we need, I think it's healthy to engage with our fellow man, to speak, to share energy freely, to not have an expectation or a want, to just share. And then if you do that enough, if you talk to 20 strangers a day, and just by natural things, half men, half women, do you think you're going to have a hard time having a job? Do you think you would be able to meet somebody you'd like to? I mean, if you do that all the time, there's so, like, you really, when you engage with folks and you share freely, and not everybody you're going to maybe ever see again. But if you do that all the time, then you create ample opportunities anyway. Mm-hmm. But then it doesn't even really matter, because it really is such a download for you and such a beautiful thing to just share that you don't, it doesn't even matter, And so I'm a big believer in just learning and sharing and engaging with people. And I see it with the kids I teach. I mean, I teach little kids, and when they come in, I'll be 40 yards away, and I'll be yelling at them, and I'll make a joke with them, something that happened the other day, and I mean, it's an instant download. It's an instant download for me, for the kids. The kids go crazy when I try to talk to as many people as I can every day, and it's a beautiful thing. And the stuff that you say and do, it affects everybody. It can go all the way to the top. There's not one person you can't, from to the President of the United States, And so, anyway.
I love that advice you give, and I think the most important part of that is, you got to talk to as many people as you can, but kind of what you've described in a lot of different ways is just being yourself, being your authentic self. When you go into a conversation, you're trying to be someone you're not. That doesn't help that person, and that doesn't help you.
No.
There's no connection that's going to take place there. I have those conversations with my with my older sons quite a bit because they see me doing a lot of, well, they've seen throughout my whole career a lot of stuff that I've done, and they've seen how I've interacted with people, how I've talked to people, how people come up to me and stuff. And some of the things that I do on the side is I also mentor a lot of CEOs, and sometimes they hear some of those interactions that I have, and they just ask me, how do you do that? How do you have those kind of conversations? Because this younger generation, as you both mentioned, it's harder for them to have those conversations. And I always just point back to, I'm just myself. I'm confident in who I am. I'm really sure of who I am.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna be myself and try to not be anybody other than that. And when that happens, that's where you can have some pretty powerful conversations with people.
And that's beautiful, because if you when you do not care how you're, if you don't have an outcome in any interaction, it lets people be themselves too.
Yeah.
I'm not the best looking guy, and I certainly am not I'm not even the best speaker, and I have an accent, and but if you just, when you do that, it allows, if people know you don't really, if they know you're not judging yourself, and you, there's a lot of science that shows what we feel in interactions is not words, it's neurons in our brain. So like, you actually feel other people's neurons. So if someone has healthy neurons, and there's a book called the Winner's Effect. You guys may know about it, but when you get one win, it's like football. Like you said, you get a little confidence, you get more confidence. A confident player is a dangerous player. Well, the same thing in our brain. If you start sharing and you start, getting momentum, and you can get momentum, like you said, from anything. It's that intent, the process. Then people start tapping into your neurons. And when you have a healthy neuron, when you have a healthy self-belief, which is you're the only person that will ever be like you in this world. There'll never be a DNA molecular makeup of any of us ever again. And even just for that alone, we have an experience and a perspective that no one that can offer value to people. And so when you are like that amongst yourself, it gives people an invitation to just share and be authentic too. And authentic is such a cliche term now, but I think it's more just when you are, basically when you've released from outcome, when you do not care how the external reacts, when you just are so grounded in your frame, it just opens up for everybody, and there's not, I've literally went up to Jerry Jones before. I've went up to, as far as like celebrities, I used to work with Chris Collinsworth, who does NBC 15 broadcasts, and how I got with that company is an amazing story. I'll tell you sometime, but that was the company I was with when I had my own business. And so, and it really is it's just sharing freely and not being concerned, how, the evolution of our essence is more important than our comfort. I really believe that. And you have to get feedback from people. You have to learn. Like you talked about, you may say the wrong thing in the meeting. You go up to somebody like, I got to meet this guy. This guy can help us. And then you start, and then you say something wrong. Well, you know what? It's a beautiful thing, because it lets you evolve. It lets you, now you can unravel even more, and then much less, why do we even feel the need to do that? Why do we feel the need to grow something into this and that? Doesn't mean you shouldn't, but where's it coming from? Is it because you just want to share and give and love? And maybe that's a healthier way. I think I work a lot, and I know you guys do too, but what drives me to work as much as I do, even for the last 6 years, is I just love the expansion. I love the expansion. I love going out and I was with a young man yesterday who has a special needs. I was working with him, and he's never thrown a football before, 18 years old, and he has fetal alcohol syndrome. So he's, he's working on his coordination, and it was a beautiful moment to throw a football with him. And I may never, if we never do that again, that's as good as life will get. Just like when I was at Central Missouri and I was working with the tight ends on an outside zone block. It's all beautiful. And so anyway.
And I would also say, I totally agree with you. And I would also say, if you're a beginner, I know for me, that was an evolution for me to get comfortable sharing more about my life and my journey, and even approaching people. Sometimes it can feel like rejection. Let's say, even if you coming up to say hello to me, what if I looked at you strange and then I just, went about my business, like I got a lot to do, and I just kind of put that off. Like sometimes we take that as like I'm being rejected, and really the way that we should look at that, at least what I tell myself is, that's okay that you're not in the same place that I'm in. Mm-hmm. It's okay that you're not in a place that you can meet me at where I am, or I understand that you're busy and that's just where you are today, and that's okay. Yes. And it's not a personal attack against me. It's just where they are in that moment in time, and that's okay. That and so we can make it several attempts and not, I guess, internalize the outcome of someone else's response. Because again, if we're not going after an outcome, if there's not something we're trying to achieve, and it's just human connection, and we practice with each other, there's really no way to lose.
You can't lose. And as you said, different people are in different aspects of our journey. And something I realized, because I'm always talking to people, is like, if a first grader says to me, which they don't, but if a first grader said to you, they looked at you and said, your mom, you're terrible. Your own mom doesn't even love you. If a 7-year-old said that, you'd kind of smile and be like, well, this is an interesting experience. But yet, if somebody that we think is, whoever tells us that we're dumb or what, then suddenly we're like in this state of fight or flight, and I've even like unraveled that to where like it's full on authenticity all the time, where it doesn't even matter. Because the other part is, as you said, if you go up to connect with somebody, and not even connect, if you're sharing energy, if you say, hey, how are you doing? And then no one responds. And by the way, that happens all the time. Like, cause I do it. I'm like, people may think I have a something, cause if I'm passing by somebody, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing? And I'm so like used to just saying that. And oftentimes people don't say anything back, or they kind of look at you. But you do it for yourself. You do it for yourself. Your own internal. You're getting a download every time you do it. And it really is true about folks, because there's been times where people haven't said something to me, and then I see them again, and they're like the most warmest, nicest, and it has nothing to do with like they're just not expecting you. They're not in a social mode right now or whatnot. And I do think technology plays a factor. I mean, I was fortunate. Maybe I was poor growing up, but I didn't have a cell phone till I was 18 or 19. I didn't have that in my hand. I didn't worry about the Instagram and the thing. And what I've learned is like people really just care about someone who can flow, who can be free. Like, I mean, that's when you speak about that, that's like the biggest. Let me tell you something. If you're free all the time and you just flow, men and women just will know that like, oh, this person, they have something in their neurons that's making them okay. We as people just want to learn and grow, and we sometimes we need people to invite us to be able to do so, and it's a beautiful thing.
So I was hoping you would share a little bit about what do you currently do today?
Sure. Why
you've chosen the path that you've chosen from a work perspective, and how does that enrich your life?
So I teach school as my main career, physical education teacher, which I have experience doing, and so that's my sort of main world. And then almost as much as teaching, probably 40 hours a week at least, I work with adults with special needs. So work for a variety of companies. I'm friends with all the owners, all people that I've met, just met. And then they hear about me or their parents, because oftentimes individuals with disabilities, they have parents heavily involved, and they'll call somebody if their child goes from one provider to another. They'll call and they say, hey, there's this guy, Taylor, you need to, we really, So I do that. I've done kids camps and things, but I love learning. I love working. And I love being around people. So all my jobs are people-oriented, either working with kids, where I'm playing in the game, I'm refereeing the game, I'm yelling at them when they come in the doors in the morning and joking with them, or I'm working with adults with special needs of a wide variety. Some, I change diapers, I do all this, and some have behaviors. But I just love people. I love learning. I love it. So all of my jobs now are with people. So I don't work from a computer anymore. I don't even coach. I'm sort of past that in my life right now. Still have goals and ambitions, with things, whether it's business or certain investments I have, but I really love people. So I try to max out my days. I work, I'll go leave here and we'll work all night, work the rest of the day and all night. And so, but it's fun to me. So I've found that I have the most personal satisfaction at work, because work is a unique thing because it's, you're exchanging time for money, and until you have enough assets where it doesn't really matter. And I think hopefully we should all be either there or close to there. While you're exchanging time for money, you got to do something, I think, that's at least you can find some joy in, something that you like about it. And for me, it's teaching and working with adults with special needs, because it's just, I love people. I love sharing energy. And most people, if you have good intentions, you can really have an awesome interaction and relationship with them. So for me, it's fun. And, it's not a job a lot of folks want to do because they think, it would be hard. But it's fun. Even when I get punched in the face, sometimes I get punched in the face. I work with guys who have behaviors. It's not easy. I mean, it's like playing football. But it's the person I'm becoming in the process. That's the cool part. And I really am pretty decent at not labeling things. I just see it as the next iteration of life that I'm experiencing. And I really don't have those problems that often because I try to have a non-judgmental energy. And over time, it's hard to be, I always heard a quote, it's hard to be mean to someone that you like. So like if you're consistent enough, and I know like you guys have kids, and I'm sure at times your kids are like mad at you, but if you're consistent enough with somebody and you have a good energy, eventually the people's armor and it'll all fade, And so that's what I'm doing now, and I love doing it. And I have a little podcast, and I do things with that and try to put out good energy. I host events sometimes. I do little mindful meditations and sound baths or things. I do collaborations with people who I have met personally. And I always say if I meet someone in the wild, not because they want, not in a work setting or just in their day-to-day life, and I see how they engage with me, and I can see how they would engage with others, then I know I can do a collaboration with them. So, we'll do mindful meditations at the park. We'll do sound baths, or just something, to add value to people. It doesn't matter their background, doesn't matter their religious affiliation. It's just all good things to add value to people's lives. And so that's what I do just as a hobby. But thank you for asking that.
Yes, and what is the greatest gift that you've received personally in working with adults with special needs?
You know what? I think just knowing that, so I didn't even know jobs like this existed years ago. When I was in the hospital, I couldn't use the bathroom by myself. I couldn't do any of that. So I went from being like hyper competitive 28-year-old guy, and I mean you have no idea, would wake up at 5 a.m., work out, and could throw a football 50 yards, and to having someone to help me go to the bathroom. So it was at that moment that I realized this is the beautiful part of life. So the greatest gift is I see the humanity in everyone. I take some of the clients out. We go out and socialize with people, and my own internal things that 15 years ago, I it's not that I would look down on them. I couldn't even. I would be uncomfortable even looking in that direction. At certain things, and so now I'm the guy with them. And it desensitizes and you just see that we're all humans. Even someone who's has a major developmental disability who you're taking care of. We're all humans, and you can see when someone's happy and sad, and it puts you in touch with your fellow man. It makes you you're a lot more patient, but also just you're more in touch, And the other thing is, if you work with folks with disabilities, you're not going to take things all that serious. Although you are driven to get to level 4, you spend time with those guys, and you see that it puts everything in perspective, And so I love doing it, and it's fun to me, and I do it all the time, and it's part of who I am, really, working with adults with disabilities. It's just fun. It's just a fun, if there are things, I do get punched in the face. I do have to change diapers, but it's just a fun thing to do. It's just, it's expanding me. I do things I never thought I could do, and you become resilient,
I love that.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that.
Thank you.
What is the greatest gift in working with children?
You know what? Just the kindness they have. Kids are so energetic. They get so fired up about everything. There's that. There's so much. We all have that inner child. It still lives in us, and if you can feed it, it's a beautiful thing, because that's who you really are. That essence. But sometimes we have to do things to stifle that inner child to get through life and to do things, or at least growing up, we certainly did. And kids don't have that. They still have that inner child. That they still have that energy, that love of life, and it's contagious. You're around kids. It's hard not to enjoy life. I always said, being a PE teacher, like, hard not to have a positive reflection internally if you're a PE teacher, because everybody's screaming your name all the time. That's I'm being facetious. I mean, that's like the ego but I'm saying it's just a fun energy, and so that's the best gift, is the kids are just it's unstifled love that they share, sincerely, and love being energy and curiosity and all those things. So.
Well, Taylor, it's been an awesome opportunity for us to talk to you today. A lot of great stuff have been said. We really appreciate you being here on our podcast today. And this is the Purpose Powered Podcast with Ryan and Rochelle. Click the subscribe button down below, and please come back. We're looking forward to our next conversation. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.